What's up, guys? Welcome back to another awesome edition of Top 5 Underrated Cards for March of 2025. My name is Nathan. You're watching the Solid Productions YouTube channel. If you like this video, leave a like on it and subscribe to see more. And if you want to support my channel, check out my Patreon linked down below. The first card I would like to review today is in 24,000 decks on EDH Rack, and it is by far the most powerful spell in this list. This is Keep Watch. For 3 mana, we get an instant that says draw a card for each attacking creature. Personally, I've never drawn less than 3 cards off of the spell, and often Keep Watch is going to draw you between 5 to 6 cards potentially. If we look at its competitors, something like a Borrowing 100,000 Arrows, draw a card for each tap creature target opponent controls for 3 mana, or even options such as Lunar Insight, 3 mana, draw a card for each different mana value among non-land permanents you control, or if we were even go into like a tribal-based strategy, Mass Appeal is draw a card for each human you control, both of these for 3 mana. Keep Watch is better than all of these options because not only can we use it for our attack step, where we are planning on going wide with creatures, or even just be in any general creature-based strategy within the bracket 3, bracket 2 power levels, but we can also use this on our opponent's combat step, and they don't even need to be attacking us. We just need at least 3 creatures to attack in any combat step for this to be a 3 mana draw 3, which is an absolutely solid option. I would highly recommend this card also for budget decks because it is only about 60 cents. At least that is what Scryfall is showing me right now. So this is a powerful little common, and if you are in any non-combo based meta, I would highly recommend Keep Watch as the first draw spell within your blue decks. The next card we'll be reviewing is a very little known fight spell in green called Contest of Claws. For 2 mana, we get a sorcery. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to another target creature. If excess damage was dealt this way, discover X, where X is that excess damage. Now we have to address the elephant in the room, which is that this is at sorcery speed. Generally, we always want our removal to be at instant speed. Ram through, of course, being the most common instant speed bite spell. Bite, of course, being where your creature deals damage, and instead of having the creatures fight each other, where they both deal damage to each other. There's also Legolas's Quick Reflexes, another sort of bite spell, in addition to Bite Down, of course, being very popular removal spells for only 1 to 2 mana, but what we get is an insane amount of ramp and card advantage in Contest of Claws, because if we assume that we have a creature, perhaps a 4/4 on the battlefield that's going to be biting a 3/3, we get to discover 1. So that means we get to search for Soul Ring. Perhaps if we're in Selesnya, we search up our Esper Sentinel. Do you need a Skull Clamp? Well, you can get that for free for only 2 mana while also removing a creature. And what makes this amazing is that Discover allows you to put the card into your hand if you choose not to cast it. So this is literally 2 mana, remove target creature, draw a card, worst case scenario. And while that isn't at instant speed, the value that you get off of that Discover trigger is absolutely insane. Even if we were to consider a different case where maybe we have our 5/5 on the battlefield fighting a 3/3, or maybe we have a 6/6 fighting a 4/4, if we discover 2, at bare minimum we can still hit that Nature's Lore or 3 visits to ramp us out another land, which is just frankly the most powerful thing you can be doing in a bracket 3 commander game. So Contest of Claws, absolutely insane value if you're willing to give up the instant speed nature of the card, and I am going to be slotting this in a ton of decks. I frankly didn't realize this card existed until about a week ago, and I am looking for ways to jam this into all of my green decks, because you can simply ramp yourself out for 2 mana if we get 1 damage off of this to ramp out our Soul Ring, or maybe we have a 0 CMC suspend spell such as Soul Talisman or the Ancient Recall version. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I'll have it on screen. So Contest of Claws, definitely a solid card, one of the more solid picks within this list. I am going to be jamming in a ton of decks. Then we move on to one of the cheapest ramp spells you have ever seen. For only 10 cents, we can be playing Nissa's Expedition. For 5 mana, we get a sorcery with Convoke, search a library for up to 2 basic land cards, put them onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. So the math of this card is such that we only really need to tap 2 creatures via the Convoke ability to outpace something like an Explosive Vegetation, which of course has been outclassed by many cards. But by paying 3 mana to ramp out 2 basics onto the battlefield immediately, this will also outclass options like Kodama's Reach and Cultivate, and frankly, I think that Nissa's Expedition should be run in place of Cultivate and Kodama's Reach, especially if you're in a creature-based strategy, because not only are you going to have your commander, which you're probably not going to be sending into combat anyway if it is a value commander that you just want to keep on the battlefield and accrue value from, but we generally are able to get one other creature out, maybe a 1-drop or a 2-drop in 2025 Commander. If you are already running Kodama's Reach or Cultivate, give Nissa's Expedition a look. That's not even to say that in the late game, this spell is essentially free. By tapping down your creatures, you get to ramp out 2 basics for free. I will say in terms of tempo, it fits in just a little bit awkwardly. So if we were to be on turn 1, for example, and we don't have a play, typically turn 1 is where players play their tapped lands. Turn 2, we're probably going to play some sort of creature. So that means by turn 3, we need to tap down that 1 creature to only pay for an Explosive Vegetations because now it costs 4. So that means on turn 3, we want to have another creature to play, and then after that is when we're able to ramp on turn 4. So it just sort of depends on what CMC your commander is. I think if you're able to get that commander out by paying 3 mana, or maybe you are building into a commander that costs maybe 5 or 6 and you're trying to ramp into that commander, then I think this option gets even better. But I seriously think this does outclass Kodama's Reach in today's day and age. So give Nissa's Expedition a look. I think you won't be disappointed. Our next card is very spicy. This is the best 3 mana rock you have ever seen. This is Victory Chimes. For 3 mana, we get an artifact. It untaps during each other player's untap step. Tap, a player of your choice adds colorless mana. And of course, it does not target, so this gets around hexproof. Now, why this card is the best 3 mana rock in the game is because you can use this to curry an absolutely insane amount of political favor. How many times have you been sitting at the table where you are 1 mana short from casting your big bomb spell? And now think of when you're in that situation, what would you give? What promises would you make in order to, cast your 5-drop commander? Or let's say you're mana screwed, you're only able to find your 3 lands in your opening hand, and you really need that 4th mana to get your card draw engine of a commander out on the battlefield to start hitting your land drops again. You'd probably promise a lot. So what Victory Chimes truly reads is tap, target opponent adds a mana to the mana pool, but your commander gets hexproof for 1-2 turns. The amount of political favor and wheeling and dealing that you can do with this card is absolutely insane. And if you happen to be in an instant speed draw go type of deck, then this is just a windmill slam if you're able to make use of that mana anyway, just for yourself. Try this out with your pod, especially if you are in just a casual friend group. Victory Chimes adds just an extra fun element to the table that also can net you positive EV by essentially allowing you to get more out of your opponent's concessions in exchange for that 1 extra mana. So give Victory Chimes a look. Our final card today is a wolf in sheep's clothing. This is Don't Move. This is a 5 mana sorcery that says destroy all tapped creatures until your next turn. Whenever a creature becomes tapped, destroy it. Now, on first glance, this card might seem like just a bad board wipe. We've already got things like Starfall Invocation reanimates your commander, basically back from the graveyard to the battlefield. We've got Vanquish the Horde. We've got Hour of Revelation. We have cheaper board wipes than 5 mana. And the spell only destroys tapped creatures, which means it won't actually get the creatures that we want to get on our opponent's boards that are generating a ton of value and are not going to be sent into combat. But my friends, this card is secretly an extra turn spell because it prevents creatures from attacking. Now, if your opponent is in a vigilance strategy, some sort of Inquisitor Greyfax weird deck, okay, they can attack through this by giving all their creatures vigilance. But what this ultimately amounts to is it says, all right, opponents, for 5 mana, we're going to destroy some of your creatures. Maybe we care about them, maybe we don't. All of you are going to skip your next combat phases. The caster of this spell gets away scot-free to their next turn. So I look at this as a 5 mana time warp in white. While your opponents can play spells, tap their mana, do things on their turn, this effectively turns off combat, and I think that is good enough to definitely cast for 5 mana if we can avoid that giant alpha strike that the green player was going to make with their Craterhoof Behemoth or whatever. And the fact that we get to destroy some tapped creatures on top of that, potentially wiping out the aggro player in the process, some sort of Jetmir deck, is extra gravy. So I think both aspects of these cards combine to make a really solid effect for 5 mana. Give Don't Move a look. This is one I'm still experimenting with, but I think that this will keep you safe more often than not, and this is just an interesting little include in perhaps a board wipe slot, but perhaps more of a Teferi's Protection type of slot. Certainly I would run this over Perch Protection, which is 6 mana and gifts an opponent an extra turn. So give Don't Move a look. And that brings us to the end of March 2025's underrated cards. Hopefully you guys enjoy this video. If you did, leave a like on it and subscribe. And again, if you want to support my channel, check out my Patreon. And if you want to see all of my other underrated cards, they will be on screen now.